Loading complete.
To pre-order one game to keep me happy for the rest of my life. The MMO is probably the one, but we talked about that last week.
Yeah.
But
I still haven't started playing that yet. I need to get my sub and get it going.
Well, when you do, again, we can play and all that. Although once E3 kicks in, I'm sure there'll be a bunch of other shit that I'll be screaming for. Thankfully, it's kind of a quiet time in gaming right now in a different way. Like E3's coming, but there aren't like a bunch of game releases happening now,
right?
Because they're all waiting to be announced. So we have a little time. Unless you're a Switch owner, in which case every month is a new gem. Fuck them.
Wow, that's hardcore.
They got the opposite of the Wii U's problem, or the Wii U didn't have anything for a very long time.
Oh, and with the Switch, every month something amazing is happening. It's great.
I think part of me thinks, I know this isn't true, but there's just this little part of me that says the Wii U existed as a producer's scheme, so that when they had the next console come out, it would be this massive hit because they had all the Wii games. And you were just one of the few people that didn't realize it, and you got suckered in.
They tricked me. Tricked me. That's okay. I don't mind being tricked.
That's why they called it a Wii U. They wanted as few people to buy this thing as possible.
I think it was a brilliant trick if that's the case, because Splatoon was wonderful. And now...
So you get Splatoon 2, which is the sequel, and it'll be better.
It's going to be better.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. For everybody listening to the recorded version right now, this is the reset button for the 31st of May. We're not quite into June yet, but might as well be there.
We're getting there, and to celebrate. Wait, are we being live streamed right now?
Yes.
Are there people? Oh, hi, people.
Hello.
I didn't give you a picture today. I just realized. Oh well.
Oh wait,
no, I did. I gave you that. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
That'll work.
That's what we're doing. We're going with last week's. We're doing it live.
Well, last week tonight.
I wish John Oliver would show up. That'd be interesting.
I don't know. I feel like he would be too busy talking about our presidential stuff, and he wouldn't get involved with E3. I don't know if he cares about E3.
He should.
The same way we do.
He should.
That's real politics. No. When you think about it. Speaking of politics, I had a realization. It's video games. Don't worry. Microsoft is totally the Republican Party of the video game industry.
Oh no. Okay, let's see the end of this. Continue.
And then you got the liberals, which are Sony, and I don't know what that makes Nintendo.
Nintendo's the Bernie bro of the whole thing.
The Bernie bro is Nintendo.
Yeah.
That sounds right. That sounds more right than right. Yeah, because it's socialism. You want to give away Switches to everyone, but then the healthcare, and then everyone eats it up.
They wanted to give away free online play to everybody, and then they're like, hindsight is 2020, right, guys? Except in this timeline, everybody was like, no, make us pay to play online. Nintendo went, okay. So that's going to suck.
Well, hold on a minute. We don't know what E3 is going to bring. Maybe we get a extra goodie with this.
I would hope so.
Like we were going to spend today talking about E3, and I feel like I'm going to bounce in there with this. Nintendo does not have virtual console games yet, if I am correct, on the Switch.
I'm not certain.
So I'm pretty sure there isn't. I remember hearing that there's nothing there yet.
All right.
So what better time than E3 to be like, hey, like Microsoft, you have this old game access thing. Well, we're Nintendo. We got quite a couple games ourselves. You know, do a subscription service, but with virtual console games.
That would really be a home run in terms of like everything they could possibly do at that point. If they especially decided to choose like a library that spanned it across multiple consoles that they've done, like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, 64, etc. If they did something like that and started putting in like their greatest hits in terms of games they published, or maybe if they could reach across the aisle and do some partnerships to bring some of those other ones in, that would be fantastic.
But more than that, I think from a business standpoint, it's far cheaper for them to do it than what Sony does currently.
Right.
I mean, like when you look at Sony, it's like you're going to get a couple games this month, and you get total of 6 games a month, and usually you get some indie stuff, but there's usually like one that's around $40, something like that, or 20. With Nintendo, any game they could give you at most would be like $10 because it's virtual console. It doesn't cost them any money. It's their own title, so you can just give that up. Keeps the fee for the online kind of low. I think there's something that could be done there. I'm not saying that's what they will do, because this is also Nintendo that wants to nickel and dime you, and why the fuck would they want to give you games and prevent you from impulse buying? But there might be something to that. I feel like there's something more to the virtual console than what they've normally done in the past. And they know it too, because, I mean, what was this whole Nintendo console that they had recently? What was it? The one that sold out also like hotcakes that wasn't the Switch. Yeah, the Classic. It was just virtual console games, really.
Yeah.
They realized how much that suckered people in, so just imagine if you could sell it just a little bit differently.
Yeah, basically what they did there is like it had over 30 games in there. You take each game is about $5, and you start to see like how much they really could have made selling all of those each individually. But you kind of bundled it together and said, here it is, and like this nostalgia piece, and everybody lost their minds. So if you have a monthly subscription service like that, where you pay, say, $10, if we're going to go with what Microsoft is doing, and give the same idea, yeah, people are going to go nuts. I'm going to go nuts. I'm going to fucking go insane for that.
And on a handheld, too, it just changes the whole thing. So, I mean, I'm not saying I have a full-fledged prediction in there, but I do feel like there's an interesting correlation between the fact we do not have virtual console games and E3's coming up. I just feel like those two have something together, that there's some link there.
Oh, here's the other cool thing that could possibly happen. Like, if you do something like that, and games where you could have, like, multiple players back in the day, if you could link those up between Switches, that would be amazing. Like, playing, say... I know the game's terrible, but say Friday the 13th on NES. That allowed up to 4 players at once with the multi-thing.
I haven't heard anything about
it. The original NES game, Friday the 13th?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant the new one that just came out.
I said Friday the 13th. I meant Nightmare on Elm Street. I've been flipping back and forth with these all day after talking to Dina.
Friday the 13th, like, literally just had a game come out, like, this week.
Yeah, I'm talking about Nightmare.
Okay.
No, forgive me, I screwed up. But Nightmare on Elm Street allowed up to 4 players with the NES expansion. So imagine like 4 people with their Switches getting together and playing that or something. That'd be kind of cool.
Or even, let's go a step in a different direction. Take Pokemon on the Game Boy, right? Want to play Pokemon Red, but actually be able to trade the Pokemon with your friends?
Without being able to, without needing the stupid wire to do it? Yeah. That would be awesome.
Good way to give those older games life, I would say. Especially on I'm just, and it's not like they're opposed to it. They re-released Red recently as a test, and people probably bought it in like hotcakes because Nintendo.
But to answer the one question you had, Friday the 13th, yeah, it recently had a game. Recently came out. I have been hearing bad things. That is a shame because I thought it was going to be really cool. Would you not want to play a game where you could be Jason? Or you could be like one of the camp counselors and you guys work together to beat Jason and escape. That sounds like a great concept, right? Somehow they flubbed it up.
My problem with games with simple concepts like that is that they tend to lack depth. Like, I haven't played this thing, but I hear that in my head, and I'm like, the game mechanics of this is: are you Jason? All you do is follow and attack, and that would be all you do. It's kind of like the No Man's Sky situation.
Right.
You name on paper what it is, and it sounds great, but you think about practicality, what that means.
Well, to
And
be fair, from everything I've seen so far, video-wise, that's exactly what's happening. You're describing it.
well, there you go.
So it could be a mechanics problem.
Of figuring that problem out. I mean, I'm not saying it couldn't be solved, but I am saying like, with something like that, I always need a demo, right?
Right. Which
It's
they didn't produce.
Well, you kind of need demos for especially like weird little things like that. Because like I've learned, it's like if you're making an action game, let's say you're making the new Uncharted, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all know how that's going to play and work. We get it, right? If I look at God of War, that's a whole different like style of game compared to the original God of War. But it is a story-driven action game where I'm fighting against AI, possibly open world, but I have a character to guide me in a direction. I can figure out what the mechanics are just looking at the game.
Okay.
I can't do the same for Friday 13. I've looked at like tiny clips and I'm just like, oh, so you're going to just kill him and you're going to run and hide. Yeah. I may need more gameplay than that.
Yeah.
Because that sounds really shallow.
So, yeah, it's Jason. You kill the counselors. You can, like, crash through the window and kick the wall down and all that. And then as the camp counselors, you guys want to band together. So, like, Jason's chasing one counselor, so you sneak up behind him and, like, hit him with a wrench or something. And then everybody tries to escape. That's pretty much what I've seen so far in terms of the game. If there's more to it than that, I apologize, but that's what I've seen so far.
Well, I make no apologies because I haven't seen enough to have an opinion on it. Anyway, back to Switch, though.
Mm-hmm.
Friday 13 should be on Switch. That was the point we were never going to make, but now I'm making it.
It should.
Why not?
Everything should be on Switch.
I don't know about that. Not everything.
Close.
I mean, we all know Five Nights at Freddy's going to be there, but I don't want it.
It's going to be there.
I know it's going to.
Okay.
That wasn't that kind of statement.
Yeah, it wasn't like I wish it's going to happen, but it's happening. It's going to happen.
There was someone, and I want your opinion on this. I'm not the big fan of this channel, but someone had linked me to. Are you familiar with the YouTube sensation known as game theory?
I am quite familiar with that YouTube sensation.
So they had a theory that the whole secret with the Switch was that it was actually a secret VR device. And the idea is that this HD rumble is the way that you beat the VR problem, because then you could feel your way in with the controllers as your hands. And I thought that was an interesting idea. Except for the fact that I don't see how that can work without a camera.
Right.
I can't wrap my head around that.
It's interesting. I mean, it gives you sensation, but only in your hands. The rest of it is a complete failure. If that's the case, if we're going with that argument, you could say, okay, fine. You get sensation in your hands, that's cool, but then the entire experience after your hands is a complete dud. And I don't
How would that be?
Well, if
what
you're
makes
going
you
to
say
do...
dud? Because it like the idea is you would Samsung VR it, and you would put the thing on your face, and then it would split the eyes, and then it would work as equally well as the competition. At the very least, it would work like a Sony branded VR, except for the fact that it's a tiny portable thing.
I could see it if it came with that. But then in of itself, I think like it's completely marketed in a different direction at this point. I mean, I suppose you could say that, but I suppose you could say the same for like any smartphone on the market now. That's just kind of, a generalization. You see what I'm saying?
Well, the reason I'm
device
bringing
can go
it
that
up,
way.
I mean, while that is true, the reason I am bringing it up is I'm trying to get our heads into a really interesting way of thinking about what Nintendo could announce, because I think it's really easy. Like okay, Sony, I'm expecting a show. I'm not expecting much of a surprise in terms of, oh, by the way, PlayStation 5's here, and it turns out it's a car. Like, I'm not expecting that. What I'm expecting is kind of what they did last year, which was great. Where they're just like people wearing suits, being like, "Hey, gamers, we got games. Look at it." And then they show off the games, and they're amazing, and they have an orchestra playing because they know that we're eating this shit up, and we are. And then some guy comes out and says, "Yo, we have this thing called building the list, where we make really financially irresponsible decisions that make the gamers happy."
Right.
And it's great. It's the best thing ever. But that's really all I expect from Sony. You have Microsoft over here with a brand new console that I could care less about, but they could sell me if they do it right. We don't know what games are coming out for it because Microsoft hasn't had a game in a long time.
Right.
At least it feels like that.
Well, they
So,
have,
like,
but nothing's made a splash. So let's hit that really quick. So Microsoft recently has had some games come out, but the problem with them is they have not made the kind of splash that they have in the past. Like, everybody thought that Gears of War, like the new one, was really going to kick it up a notch. It really didn't. It didn't do much of anything. And then you have, like, Halo Wars. They were assuming because it had the word Halo and they did, like, a pretty heavy online advertisement that was really going to kick forward with people. And it's already in the bargain bin in a lot of places. They are having a lot of trouble getting people interested in their brand right now.
Well, they've done a terrible job with their brand in general lately. I mean, the past 10 years has been Kinect, and then the announcement of the Xbox One was one of the worst things I've ever seen at E3, other than, like, the Konami presentation.
I still remember that.
How many people heard the words "always online"
Yeah.
and panicked? I know, like, occasional people were okay with it, but generally speaking, I knew a lot of people that said they would never touch it. And me personally, even though they've corrected course, I'm never going to look at them as anything other than the guys that tried to do that.
Right.
I can't look at Microsoft now as a fucking company I'm supposed to like or love.
Right,
I
I
look
can
at
see
them
that.
so much. I look at them so much as I said earlier, the Republican Party of the video game industry. They're trying to get me. They're trying to trick me into an idea that I'll be comfortable with as I get used to it over time.
Right, I can see that, and I think Tanner and I, just to criticize us a little bit there, I think we went soft on Phil Spencer a bit when it came to that very subject, because Phil Spencer, first and foremost, he has done a great job turning that around. People actually trust the brand much, much more since he took over, and Don Matrick went away and destroyed another company. But the thing there is we gave him all the praise in the world. When that decision was made, he admitted he was in the room when it was made. He didn't object. He was in the room with other executives and allowed that to happen. So he's still got some guilt there. He is still somewhat guilty of it.
Here's the thing where I'm going to turn it. They have made some fine decisions lately, and those decisions have been undoing previous decisions, but I haven't seen them actually do anything proactive. Like, this is my problem with Microsoft. I haven't seen a game announced yet that I've been excited for and that I felt like I needed the console for. I haven't seen a reason to ever get an Xbox. It seems like every decision that they've given me is them saying, we're going back on that previous one that y'all hated so much. And that just seems to be the whole sell, is we didn't do it this time. We got rid of that problem. And now, more than ever, I don't understand the brand loyalty for Xbox when everything's on PC. Like, yes, it's neat. We can have every game on computer, but then why would I get an Xbox if I could just get a computer for the same price?
That's a very good point. That has been an ongoing problem with them, too, since the announcement last year of, the split where every Xbox game you could get that comes from Microsoft guaranteed is going to be on PC as well. So a lot of us...
So why do I need an Xbox?
Exactly. A lot of us stood back and said, okay, then you're killing Xbox. That's kind of the way that I felt. And then they announced Project Scorpio, which is supposed to do, 4K and everything else. But I still said, no, I don't think so, because if it's going to be true 4K, PC gamers, we know what the cost is going to be. If you tell me this thing is anything below $800, I'm not sure I believe you.
The trick would be they'd have to sell a box at a loss, but even then, I just don't see the point.
I don't
Like,
either.
the best case scenario for what the Scorpio is here is a console that has parts in it that are it is cheaper to buy this with this power than it would be to do it on your own.
Right.
Which, okay, if you can sell that, go ahead. I mean, that's not that far off from kind of what Switch is doing in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're never going to have a handheld as powerful as the Switch at that price. You couldn't build that. You couldn't make that. And that's fair. Like that, but Nintendo, like, there's an argument and there are advantages to that. I don't see any advantage to having a console when a computer can just objectively do more.
Right, it could objectively do better along with that too,
So
because
could
basically,
Microsoft do?
Right.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
The point I was going to make there is Project Scorpio, if you look at it this way, whatever the official name becomes for this thing, Xbox Next or whatever they want to call it, Project
2.
Might as well at this point. They already have one. Now it's 2. Project Scorpio is going to be a poor man's 4K device. I'm sorry to put it that way, but it's going to be true. You can go online and start pricing how a gaming PC is going to go and what it's going to cost you to do 4K gaming, and you're going to realize really quick, they're not giving you the full story. I've been saying this for months. They're just not.
Why does 4K matter so much?
It doesn't.
And I don't mean to be rude, but it's like we're not at a point where most of the consumers have 4K. And most games are still not 60 FPS.
That's the part that should matter.
I keep hearing how 4K is the most important thing, but like it seems like we're trying to hit the resolution output, but we have no intention of making the games just account for it. Right now I have a PlayStation Pro, and it was given to me because I had given I told you the story. Someone bought my PS4 off me, so I got a Pro as an upgrade for free, which was great. Here's the thing, though. I don't have a 4K TV, but I noticed the differences in subtle ways because it has increased my frame rates, which is great. That's the most important thing. And then there are a couple enhancements in the visual, but I look at it and I'm like, if I didn't get this for free, I would have never upgraded. It is just not worth doing. Because it would have been about, like, I'll be generous. Let's say I got $300 for my PS4, which is what that model costs now, right? Let's say I sold it at exactly its worth.
Okay.
I'd have to pay $100 more for this upgrade that is so insubstantial. I just don't really see that many differences.
Right. The big
so
thing...
I look at this,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So I look at the Scorpio and I'm like, you can increase this number all you want. And maybe you'll hit those frame rates and they'll be great. But Microsoft, you don't have any exclusives. I don't have a reason to own you. I look at my PS4 and I see all these Sony games coming out that are wonderful and exciting, or just Japanese games in general.
Right.
Because, like, Nier is not on Xbox. It's on PC. It's on PS4. But I can't get that on Xbox.
Right.
If I get a Switch, every game in its own way is an exclusive. Because they're all portable. That's unique. And it has this, like, very unique controller. And there's something weird about a Switch. I don't know what Microsoft could do to sell me.
I think they're going to run into that problem, especially because, like you were saying, they don't have a lot of exclusives and different things like that. And this is the thing that during E3, they're going to have to come out and really start talking to people and get this point across, because I hear whispers that Nintendo has to go big or go home, and I think we both agreed, no, that's Microsoft. Microsoft really has to go big or go home at E3.
Nintendo can take a year off if they want. I think they made the money.
Right. They have...
Past year did them pretty well.
The past few months, they have been on fire. They have no reason to go big or go home.
Not months. This year. I mean, we got to account for the NES.
Oh, the NES Classic, yeah. It ruled the holidays.
I mean, I think Nintendo's doing okay financially. In Pokemon Go, even if they didn't receive the bulk of that money, if they got even a percent of that, that
They
was money.
they absolutely did get a percent, so that helped. Not to mention, with the release of Breath of the Wild, that also caught the amiibo market back on fire.
Yeah.
So that was a big thing. Nintendo's doing fine. They don't need to impress anybody at E3. They're going
Go on,
to, but they don't
go on
need to.
Amazon. Look at the top 5 games in terms of sales for this month, and they have 3 out of those 5, and they have the number 1, 3, and 4 spot.
Back to
That's
Microsoft.
insane.
The big problem they're having right now is a lot of the games that you would say that are quote exclusive and needs to be 60 frames or what have you, they're already there. The big one I can think of is Killer Instinct, Gears of War. So Gears, the new one, is not, to my knowledge, is not on PC yet. It may be, so correct me if I'm wrong, people, but I don't think it is. It doesn't really matter because it's already at 60 frames. It already looks fine. You don't need Project Scorpio for that, so scratch that off as well. So you don't really need it. You
It's
just
on
don't.
PC.
Oh, is it? Well, there you go.
Yep. It was like 2 months late, but it's on.
It's on PC now. So there's another one where you don't really need an upgraded Xbox because it already runs fine in 60 frames on Xbox One as it is, or you can get it on PC and push the frame rate to whatever you want it to be.
While we're shit talking Xbox, I want to make one interesting point, which is for the past how many years of E3 they have never targeted the gamer. They just haven't. Connect was like the beginning of this, but they've been going after the casual family market for a long time.
Yes.
They will never buy a Scorpio because they do not understand the advantage of 4K. It is one thing to sell a media box and explain what works for, it's the new VCR, but it plays games. Okay. But now they're going after the hardcore market with the Scorpio. And it seems like all I've heard, and granted they have not revealed it yet, but all I'm hearing is power, power, power. From a hardcore standpoint, who cares about power? I'm at the point now where I kind of feel like we've hit diminishing returns. The PS4 is not that much more than a PS3. Like, really. The numbers may be way higher, but if I play Uncharted 3 and play Uncharted 4, it's a visual difference, but I'm not wowed the same way.
Right.
That I was at the time.
Right.
So
It's not giving, like, new mechanics or anything that's mind-blowing.
Right.
You feel like you've been there before, because you have.
It's just, at this point, we're chasing a number rather than trying to make something different or do something with that technology. What could Microsoft do to sell you? That's my question.
I'm not really sure they could, to be honest, because in terms of it, I'm in an interesting situation with my job where I am very familiar with the 4K market in terms of an entertainment medium. I know that 4K is not taking off like industry experts expected it to.
Pretend 4K is out of your mind.
Okay.
There's some exclusive game, and this is the only place you could get it. What is that game? What is the thing that you could look at and say, I need a Scorpio? I just have to have one.
The one thing they could throw out there that would make me get a Scorpio.
Yeah.
Mech Assault 3. If they could make that happen, I would get it. Because in terms of it, I always felt that Mech Assault, because there's been other mech games like that, but I always felt that it worked best with an Xbox controller. At this point, Mech Assault has been a dead brand since 2004. So it'd be good to resurrect that. Bringing that in with the kind of power they keep talking about, I would love to see a very lush, full-frame, powerful new Mech Assault game. I would go for that, but I don't see it happening.
Okay.
Because in terms of it, the power thing they keep mentioning, it's so absurd because you keep talking about power. Your competitor at this point is yourself because you put these games on PC and you're still running an APU. So for anybody who doesn't know what an APU is, it is a processor that works both the graphics and the CPU. So it does both of those things. Now, the Scorpio, I don't want to get into too much details, but it is reworked in a way where it takes some of that stress off the APU and works in a different way, but it's still a goddamn APU.
All gibberish to me.
Yeah, that's why I was like, I don't want to get too technical, but the thing I can tell you, it's still one chip doing both the graphics and the CPU versus a computer that you could build yourself or buy, and it's going to have processing for the graphics, processing for the CPU. You cannot beat that.
Unless you have a device that we have no idea how it works.
Yeah.
For all you know, the Scorpio could just be a black hole, and it runs off the cries of children.
Scorpio,
and it creates a power that you've never seen before.
I've figured it out. Scorpio is an alien technology from an alternate dimension delivered to us by Superman.
It's already been done. That was Alienware computers. And they were pretty ahead of their time. I used to have one. It was nice. Fortunately, even Superman got outdated. As I've seen with Batman v Superman. But, okay. We've talked a bit about Nintendo and Microsoft. Let's go to for me is the main event. But even though Nintendo's probably the most interesting, Sony has been consistently perfect at E3. And what I mean by that is that every time I see a Sony press conference, I'm always into it. They know they're completely making the show for me.
Right.
And it's great. So for me, I don't have as many expectations as much as I'm just sitting there going, I wonder what they plan to do. And that in itself is exciting.
Oh, they always bring the thunder every time.
We really don't know what's coming out right now. Now, I obviously there's going to be some games we're expecting to see. Like Death Stranding is going to be there.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty safe bet.
That's a safe bet. Maybe God of War again. Days Gone I could care less about, but I know one person in the world's excited for it. Whoever's not sick of zombies is excited for Days Gone.
Yeah, I'm cool. No thanks.
Yeah. You could make the greatest zombie game ever made, and I'm just not going to buy it. I'm not even going to look at it anymore.
It's overrun. I didn't mean for that to be a pun there, but there you have it. The zombie genre is overrun.
Overrun with zombies.
But
I was in an argument about Days Gone the other day. Someone was trying to defend it, and I'm like, what looks unique about it? And they're like, well, there's motorcycles in it. That distinguishes it. I'm just like...
Weren't there motorcycles in Dead Rising 3?
I don't care.
I know there were some sort of vehicles. Yeah, there were. There were people, they were bosses you had to fight, but there was a motorcycle gang you fought in Dead Rising 3.
It was a combination of that and the fact it was open world. And those two things were supposed to convince me to be excited. And I don't think you can excite me any less than the words open world, because it means nothing to me anymore.
No. Not to mention, I mean, it's already been perfected at this point. I mean, Breath of the Wild did it. It's done.
I don't feel like it's perfected. I think they found a way to make it good. I feel like we have had so many open world games that have just followed the same template, but the template was never that good in the first place.
Right.
But we just took it as that. I think what Zelda said is, hey, let's actually do something with it. Like, the weird little statement, but as excited as I am to play Zelda, and I'm not saying it doesn't deserve the 10s it gets, I'm far more excited for whatever comes after. Because now they have the template, and I feel like now that they have their hands on that style of game, there's a lot more you can do with it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. I know we're getting off topic here, but we're going to roll with it because it's a good idea here. You make a very good point with that, because Super Mario 64, when it came out, it set the bar of what good 3D could be. And in terms of it, this is not my personal opinion. This is what other people have said. But a lot of people believe that Banjo-Kazooie came along and took that and made it even better.
If you put the two games in front of me, I'm going to pick Banjo every single day of the week. Like, that's just how that works. But that's kind of what I feel like we're going to have from Zelda. It's going to be this influential thing. Unless, of course, companies like Ubisoft and EA just look at it and go, that's too much work. Let's just make the easy one. It makes more money. Well, it's what's probably going to happen.
You've got a point. You've got a real point with that one. Wouldn't that be...
Speaking of press conferences I'm not excited for, EA and Ubisoft.
I want to see 0% of EA. Last year...
You want to see what part of EA?
I want to see 0% of EA. Last year, if you recall, you and I missed it because we were busy seeing Warcraft in theaters. And then we got out of the theater, you read some news bits of what happened, and I said, so basically nothing happened, and you said, yep, pretty much, and then put your phone in your pocket.
That was a good E3. This year we're watching it, whether we want to or not.
E3, could you throw us a bone, or E3, excuse me, EA, could you throw us a bone and have, like, something cool to see? Like,
the worst part about it is how they spread it out. Unlike every other year, E3 starts on a Saturday, which is kind of good and bad at the same time. It's good because it means after a press conference, I'm like, okay, I've seen enough today, and we have a little drip-fed more in the way of the information. But on the other hand, it means I got to give up a Saturday just for EA.
Yeah.
I got to drive to Huntington, sit with you, and while we sit there and go, fucking football.
Yeah, or see that, and then like Pele would come out and talk about video games, which he doesn't even know what the hell is going on.
For a new game, we'll be excited, then it releases, and it's called Mass Effect Andromeda, and then we all cry about how it sucked.
Yeah, because it did. That was awful.
They're going to show off the new Dragon Age, and for the first time, I'm looking at a BioWare game, and I'm like, just don't. I don't want it. I don't want BioWare anymore. I never thought I'd say those words, but here we are.
Well, okay, here's a fun question when it comes to EA and E3, when they're possibly revealing something for everyone to get excited over. Is there any studio within EA that's not tainted?
I gotta think.
Like anything that people would want to see.
Dun, 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 dun. Well, no. I had a real answer, but then I realized it didn't work. I was going to say, look, if people are excited for Visceral to have that new Star Wars game, but then I remembered, what's their last two games? Dead Space 3 was a massive disappointment, and fucking Battlefield Hardline? No.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to go back to the board, and I'm like, every interesting EA studio was either shut down or ruined. So I am literally looking up EA right now just to find a studio that wasn't ruined.
That's what I'm saying. Like, everything they have, if they haven't killed it by now, it's just completely tainted, and you're not excited to see anything from them.
I mean, there's one series they didn't ruin, but they're not going to make it, which is a new SSX. Because I loved SSX. I even loved the new one. It was a great game. Was it as good as 3? No, but it was a solid game.
Right. I don't know too
other
much
than
about
that
one.
It's a snowboarding game.
Okay.
It's really fun. I mean, it's not like a story-driven AAA game. It was just a really fun thing.
It couldn't be as dumb as that.
Ruined.
That last year's game that they showed at E3, a snowboarding game. That one turned out to be yeah, that was Ubisoft, but it was just a giant disaster. That's what I'm saying. It can't be that bad.
SSX is closer to Tony Hawk Pro Skater. It's like super ridiculous. You can do insane stuff. I'm looking at the list of franchises. No, it was, but they're not going to make another one.
Right.
Don't even pretend. There's a rule. If your game has like a rebranding with the same name, it's like, we're rebooting SSX. Let's call it SSX. And then it comes out and it didn't sell that well. What are they going to do? Call the next one SSX?
Yeah.
Again? They can't do that.
Right.
So you can only do that trick once or 20 times.
EA squeezes the life out of everything. That's why I call it effervescent asphyxiation.
I can't find a single thing they haven't fucked up.
There you go.
I mean, I'm looking on their Wikipedia, and it seems like I'm looking at their games by Electronic Arts that are big deals, and every single one of them, it's either the studio fucked up somewhere along the way, or it's totally dead.
Or they're just dead and rotting.
Pretty much. I mean, I love Wing Commander, but we all know what happened to Origin. Not only did they die, but they named their fucking Steam competitor after them, just to rub salt in that wound. Yeah. Let's give Medal of Honor another shot. I'm sure it'll be better than Warfighter.
Speaking of which, do you think that they would even bother like trying to do anything new with Origin? Maybe they could announce that at E3.
I don't care.
Origin is just like, it has improved. I'm gonna say that. I've been on this show.
Origin gives you some free games, and that's nice. Here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care.
Right.
It's like if you don't have any games, it's the Microsoft dilemma. If you don't have any games I care about, then who cares about the services?
It does have the game for Windows Live dilemma.
This is like they have that EA access on Xbox One, which sounds like a great deal on paper. You can play every EA game a little bit early. Isn't that great? But I mean, if they're not making any interesting games,
right? So that's what I was going to say. Rewind about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago on Super Reset Brothers. I was praising Origin, and I liked Origin Access. I thought it was good, and I said, this thing has a lot of potential to grow and become better. Here's the problem. Come back to today, it hasn't grown. Because they're not putting out anything. It's bad now, because they aren't doing anything with it. They say, shit from 2 years ago is good enough for now. No, it's not. Not even.
I just can't find anything. I keep looking. I can't find anything.
That's sad.
That hasn't been fucked up.
That is so damn sad.
I know. Even studio-wise, I just... like... It kind of hurt. Okay, so I'm going to write EA off. We're going to watch it, but I'm writing them off.
We're going to watch it, but we're not going to have fun. Last one, Ubisoft.
No, there's another. There's another we're forgetting about before we get to Ubisoft. Bethesda.
Oh, okay.
Bethesda has... Actually, there's two more we're forgetting after Bethesda. But Bethesda is pretty hit and miss with me. Where it's like... Or no, the thing is with Bethesda is whenever they make a shooter... Whether it be Wolfenstein or Doom, it's one of my games of the year, if not my game of the year, when that comes out. Both of those games are phenomenal games. I don't like first-party Bethesda games. I don't like their practices. And with the exception of the first Dishonored, I don't think I've really cared for any of the games they published.
Right.
So what's your take?
Not to mention, like, they just did the whole HD whatever of Skyrim, and I think that was a dud. They didn't.
It was a remake. It was an easy.
They tried to make it out to be a big deal, though. I didn't make it out to be a big deal. They did.
Did they? If they did.
Oh, they tried. They were just like, oh man, here's this, and everybody get on the train, and all you people are in console, you're now going to have mods coming to Skyrim, and it's going to be awesome. And I feel like it didn't really do much of anything, honestly. It was there. Whatever.
Did you see the... there was footage of what Prey 2 was going to be that Eurogamer did? And it looked like one of the greatest games I would have ever seen in my life. And of course, that was the one that was canceled because they wanted to buy out the studio, and the studio wouldn't let them, so they just canceled their amazing-looking game.
Nice.
Which is great. And now they released the new Prey, made by an entirely different team that has nothing to do with the original. So if you worked on the original Prey, you're probably looking at this one really, really salty. They didn't market it at all, and it bombed heavily. Like I that's kind of my feeling about Bethesda in general. It's like there's this obnoxiousness in there, and I felt it for a long time. But sometimes you get something great. I mean, again, no one expected what Doom and Wolfenstein were.
Right.
And one of my favorite games that no one in the world but me likes is published by them, which is Wet. I really love Wet. No one else does. They'll
Yeah, I
never
have
get a
no idea
sequel.
what that is.
Don't worry, it got like 6 out of 10s. It was like it had a sequel, but they canceled it because no one but me liked Wet. But I
Oh.
love that game. I really do.
Well, I
It's
really
kind of
like Doom, so
well, Doom was kind of well received.
yeah.
Wet was this game where I mean, I'm not even going to say the developer was good because they went on to make the critical acclaim game known as Naughty Bear. Might be familiar with that one.
I actually have it in my collection.
Don't worry, Wet was better to me. It was like this grindhouse style Tony Hawk Pro Skater third person shooter where you like tried to trick together to get like attacks to get a higher score, which you could use that score as money to buy move sets. It was
Okay.
really really fun. It was rough. It was rough as hell, but I loved it, and no one else did. Fuck Bethesda. I want Wet too. God damn it. It's. I mean, it was made in 2009, so we're past that point. It's an 8-year-old game. We're not getting it, but fucking want it. I shouldn't have reminded myself Wet exists.
One of these days.
One of these days, I'm gonna buy it again and play it. It's probably like $5. Anyway, but not Dishonored, Bethesda. I hate Fallout. Fallout 4 is a bad game.
Hmm.
They're not gonna have a first party game for a long time.
That's a
But
harsh opinion, but
everyone seems to agree with it.
I'm kind of going in that direction. I'm not going to say it's a bad game, but I will
I
say compared to like 3 or New Vegas or something like that, I didn't care about it as
It's
much.
a massive step down from New Vegas.
Yes.
It is, and even if I'm going to ignore that and I'm just going to look at it as a contemporary game, Witcher 3 came out 2 years before it. And Witcher 3 is one of the greatest RPGs ever made. And Fallout 4 felt like a game that was made 10 years too late without learning any of the lessons from Fallout 3 in New Vegas.
Okay, yeah. And like I've said before, too, when it comes to those games, like the Bethesda games that are coming out, there is like this inherent clunkiness when it comes to them. Almost like the game isn't finished. It's just weird.
Now, to be fair, again, we are talking first party Bethesda, and we know they will not have a first party Bethesda game because like it's too soon. Because Wolfenstein was made by Machine Games, and it was wonderful. I mean, I'm really just hyping their shooters, and we're gonna get the new Wolfenstein at this E3, and I cannot wait.
That'll
If
be
it's
good to see.
Well, it was already announced. So this is happening, and
Right.
did you play the New Order?
Yes.
It was weirdly one of the best written first-person shooters I've ever played,
Yeah, I
and
really enjoyed
was
that.
not expecting that.
I enjoyed everything that came with Doom. I thought the story for that was really good. Even though it was pretty much a retelling of everything, they still did a great job with it, so that made me happy.
See, it was better. It was a continuation, technically.
Yeah.
Like, if you look into the lore of Doom, that is the coolest fucking game ever made, the newer Doom. Because they literally brought in the character from the previous ones and turned him into a god of killing. And it's hilarious.
And then you have the expansion coming out for Elder Scrolls Online, the Morrowind life support system. It's exactly what I'm going to call it, the Morrowind life support system, because damn, I can't think of anyone who cares about that game. And then they're like, "Oh, Morrowind, here's some nostalgia." I don't think it's going to work.
Wasn't there someone who talked to us and yelled at us for shitting on ESO?
I think so. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to do it again.
Well, I mean, all I'm going to say is, like, Stormblood's an actual game.
Oh,
We're excited for because it'll be good. That's all I'm saying.
throwing down the gauntlet.
I'm
Nice.
just saying one is an expansion and one is a game.
All
So
right,
we
who's
got
next?
two more. I'm not gonna go. I want to end with Ubisoft. Devolver Digital is doing their first press conference that they've never done, and I love these guys. They are an indie publisher, and there's no idea what to expect from them.
Devolver Digital, the same people who published Hotline Miami 2, right?
Well, 1 and 2.
1 and 2. What else
Um,
have they published?
I gotta get a list, but they pretty much, generally speaking, if there is an amazing indie game, they're usually involved.
Okay.
Hold on, I'm looking up the list. I know they did Ronin, which I liked a lot. I just can't think of the games on the top of my head, unfortunately, because I'm being stupid. They
Stupid.
did the recent Serious Sam games that have come out. Talos Principle was really good. Mother Russia Bleeds was them. Enter the Gungeon was them. Halto Boyfriend, I don't know if you ever played that. That was them. Dropsy was them. Not a Hero, Titan Souls. Gods Will Be Watching. If Luff Trousers, I don't know if any of these are ringing any bells. They're Shadow Warrior.
A few of them are, yeah.
Pretty much what they are is they are the indie publisher that always just seems to find the cream of the crop. Every time I see them publish something, it's always pretty great and has some amount of attitude to it that's fun. It's a small like publisher that does small games, but this is the first time they're having a press conference. And honestly, I'm way more excited for them than I am for EA and Ubisoft. And Bethesda. Because I imagine the ratio of good games versus my time is going to be a lot higher at this indie one than it's going to be watching EA, where we sit there and just go.
Yeah, it's also good to hear that, an indie publisher is finally getting a little bit of limelight there, because I know they're doing a little bit of that with like the PC gaming show that they like to have at E3, but
Yeah, we have that this year too.
that thing is always a disaster in my opinion.
Well, there's only been 2, and I've never seen either, so as far as I know.
I've seen both, and I think they're always bad. And then right at the end, it always ends with like a plug for like the latest graphics card or what the fuck ever is coming out. It's just, I don't like it. I don't like that one.
Maybe you'll get Half-Life 3 this time.
That would be the place to unveil it if they were going to.
No, they're never going to have it. Jokes aside, the writers of Half-Life no longer work at Steam. Or Valve, I'm sorry. Like
You might as well call it Steam.
That's what they are.
That's what they've
But,
become.
Every single writer that worked on Half-Life no longer works there. So I'm now at the point where it's like, even if you made a Half-Life 3, I don't want it. It's not for the original minds.
Like the PC gaming show, though, like I think like the biggest developer, like personality, they got to come on the show was Cliffy B. And it's like, do you really want to watch Cliff Bleszinski that badly? I know I don't.
What was he saying? Just like, we're making Lawbreakers. We didn't have yet.
He came on. He was like, Boss Key Studios, Lawbreakers, and then off he went. He flew off into the sky.
Let's get it over with. We have one more, and it's always the worst. Ubisoft. I would like to remind everyone last year for Ubisoft there was I got to get real for a minute, but then you're going to remember why this is so painful. Even past this. There was a terrorist attack that happened in America, and there were some innocent people. I think it was at not a bar, but it was at like some party or something.
Yeah.
You remember what I'm talking about. They open with the Just Dance stuff, and then and there are people dressed up as like furries and costumes, and as silly and wacky as can be. And then they all hold their head down for a moment of silence. And you're just looking at the weirdest shit I've ever seen on screen. The most inappropriate thing I've ever seen is a furry giving a moment of silence to people who were just murdered. That's Ubisoft.
And then
They do not have the hindsight.
Yeah,
they do not have the
they basically came out and said, our Ubisoft soft thoughts are with the victims and everything, and it was pretty bizarre if I recall.
It speaks to what Ubisoft is, which is the most out of touch. They are, if I look at anyone, I look at them as the most cringeworthy, least understanding people of any group of the world. I don't think they're humans. I don't think they know how to interact like humans. And I think they only know that the word Tom Clancy makes money. And they figured that out. But you go past that. Do you care about any Ubisoft games?
No, I've given up on Assassin's Creed a long time ago.
Assassin's Creed's over. Look, everyone. I've had a talk about Ubisoft before, and this kind of sums it up. And it's very true with Far Cry as well.
Okay.
And this is just something that's always been it. Ubisoft doesn't make games; they make themes. They make interesting locations and ideas for theming, but then you play the game and they're all identical. They don't evolve. There's nothing interesting about it mechanically, and they're bad games to play. But you get suckered in every year because there's a theme that you really like. That's Ubisoft.
Fair enough. I mean, even if Assassin's Creed was still around, I still wouldn't care. They've beaten it into the ground. I think the story has devolved to the point of just idiocy. Don't care. Don't care about Far Cry.
This one's called Origin. That means it's the early one.
God damn it.
It's the reboot. It's the game is a service. Prepare to hear that word all E3. Those words in that order. Games as a service. There are no words in my heart that hurt me like games as a service. And it's not even that I'm opposed to it. It's like the word DLC and what it used to mean, what it still kind of means. Downloadable content by itself is not bad. Downloadable content bastardized is horrific.
Mm-hmm.
And when everyone does it badly, it makes the whole thing kind of crash. Microtransactions by themselves probably wouldn't have been the worst thing if they were all optional. Now I can't play a single fucking game without a microtransaction made by a Western studio. Deus Ex had microtransactions.
Right, that just blows my mind. Of like one series that didn't need to have any microtransactions, that would be it. Yet they were.
There they are. And now it's games as service, which tells me a couple things. One, you want multiplayer in fucking everything. I know that was already a trend, but I just want my single player games. Please. I'd like multiplayer games. I just once in a while like a good Persona 5. I bought it, I played it, I beat it, and I had my time. And that's it. But when I hear service, it worries me that we're not getting a full game. That's where my head goes.
I kind of feel that way too.
Mass Effect is a game as a service right now, whether they wanted it to be or not, because they continue to update it. Another example of that, and I like this game a lot, but Final Fantasy 15 is a game as service. That should have been a one and done, but there's DLC coming out, and they keep patching in content. Is it good content? Sure. When I finally go to replay the game, I hope it's all out so I can just experience it in one go.
Right.
But right now, I never want to replay it because I'm looking at it and I'm like, this will never be done. And I'm just... Right. The only time I'm okay with it is when it's an MMO. Put it in Final Fantasy 14. Put it in Destiny. It's okay. Can we also just have games that come out and just have a moment and die? And we just look back on it and view it like a movie? Just pop it in and be like, that was a great one.
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. And those games like Final Fantasy, World of Warcraft, things like that, they can be a service because you've got that monthly experience that keeps happening there. So, right, I get what you're saying. That would make sense. The other games as a service, to me, not only frightens me because they plan to keep it going, but then it's not a product. So it's like, what are you keeping from me? What are you putting behind this wall that you may be benevolent and give to me or force me to pay for?
And before people tell me I'm being too anxious, I will remind people when we were under that bubble for microtransaction, look what happened to Metal Gear Solid 5. That game was ruined.
What a
I know
fucking
it got
mess
10,
that is.
But try replaying it today. You can't.
Oh, I've been told to stay away from it.
Well, now it's worse. I don't know if you've heard. They've patched it so that the time is skewed to be way worse than it was at launch.
Right, yeah, that's
so now,
exactly what I've heard.
That is one of the most important gaming franchises, and it was ruined because of this corporate greed. And I worry. Now, at the same time, this games as service thing is really a Western ideology, which is why I think we're having such a good renaissance in gaming right now. Because most of the big games that have come out are Japanese, and they've just come out, and that was it. Nier came out, and I beat it, and it was great. And that's the end of the story. There's a little DLC, but it was a totally optional arena content.
Same with
it wasn't something that mattered.
Same with Resident Evil 7. I mean, that's a game where you get in it, you finish it, you're good to go.
There's DLC, but it's all optional.
Yeah, it's not integral. You don't have to have it.
Right. There is one that you will, but it'll be free, which is fine.
Yeah.
So
who cares?
Yeah. I don't mind free things. I just, if you're going to charge me up over and over, it worries me. And in multiplayer cases, I'm just okay with it. Splatoon is fine. That's a great way to do it because you're trying to keep a community engaged. Makes sense in a fighting game.
Mm-hmm.
I just also like games to end. That's it. So anyway, I think we've hit everything. The only thing, there was one press conference we didn't hit, which was Square Enix, but I don't have any expectation for Square Enix at all.
Yeah, I think we'll leave Square alone for this time. Maybe next time we'll hit Square.
It's less picking on and more they just do what they do, and I've never been able to predict them. We're not getting Final Fantasy VII before anyone even pretends. So we're not. What else they got? The Hitman, not anymore.
Yeah. That one's about screwed at that point. It's not time for a new Tomb Raider, so we don't need to worry about that.
It's not. I mean, the thing is with Square, they have a lot of franchises, but all the Western ones, I forget they have it. One thing I'm interested in is they are going to have Life is Strange Season 2. I really liked Season 1, so I'm excited to see what that is. By the way, that's the free game we're going to get this month. So I highly recommend you play through Life is Strange.
I shall.
You're going to get it free. Yeah, it's like a Telltale game, but I thought it was way better written. The first episode's a little cheesy, but it got better as it got going. But I really like that game. What is Square? I guess Eidos. Maybe they'll give Thief another shot. Who knows?
I'm not so sure about that, simply because of how poorly it went last time. Honestly, I think they gave Thief away more than they sold it.
Yeah, but Thief was such a good... Not that game, but the series.
The series was good, yeah. But the last one was just a disaster because, like I said, I think they gave it away more than they sold it.
My counterpoint would be no one would have ever expected to tell me we'd get a Nier sequel. And we did.
Oh, no, I wasn't expecting that at all.
Well, no one even knew what Nier was. And including myself, I didn't play the original until
I was talking about Thief, but anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I was using it as a comparison.
I see.
Like Nier was a sequel to a game that nobody bought.
Mm-hmm.
But now the sequel's selling like hotcakes. You know, it sold 1.5 million so far, which is doing really well, way beyond their expectation. Who's to say the same can't happen with Thief? Might be a case where they just give it another shot. Maybe people will eat it this time.
Could be. But we are hitting the 1 hour mark at this point. We have discussed a tremendous amount of stuff here. So I want to say thanks to everybody who decided to sit down and listen to the entire episode. This has been one of our long ones, to be honest. Anything else you want to say before we wrap this up?
I love everyone who's listening.
All right, so I'm Patrick. That's been Eric. We're out of here. Later.
See ya.